Hi, hope you guys are doing well. So Blender 4.5 was finally released last week, so I thought I'd make a new video series. This video series will basically be for both beginners and as well as for people that are probably intermediate or maybe in advanced. The purpose of this series is to compile specific stuff, like let's just say what is the edit mode, what does it do, or maybe what is about modifier to create niche videos. So even for beginners they could actually learn what is what, and for the new people, for your people to come back to a guide, sort of like video notes as to see what is where or how to do some specific stuff. So this part will be featuring on navigation basically. So I'll just go ahead and show you what is where, and maybe give you a little bit of info about what to expect from that specific part of Blender. So when you open Blender 4.5, the first thing is you're greeted by this menu. This is only a first time greeting when you open it. So it asks you to see what you want, maybe language, if you want to keep it in the same, or if you want to change it. I'll just keep it the same for now. Maybe what the theme you want. I like dark mode, I'll stay with that, but if you want light mode, it looks like this. I recommend going with dark mode, it sees you on the eyes. And the key map, if you're someone from previous versions, or maybe coming from some other softwares, you can actually change this, edit this out. Also the mouse selection, in the older versions of Blender, really old, not in 4 or 3 versions, but really older versions, it was actually right, but it was left by default. It was left. So as for the spacebar shortcut, this is asking you if you when you press the spacebar button, what will happen. By default it is set to play. So if you're someone who wants to learn animation directly, character animation or other type of animation directly, the first thing that you go ahead with, then leave it as it is, or you can actually go with tools or with search. I recommend going with search. If you're going with modeling or any other type, mostly you will be using it for search, so change it to search by default also, and then click continue. Once you're done, whenever you open Blender next, you can you will be greeted by this menu. Also you could also change the spacebar shortcut, like we did, which was selected. When I select spacebar, this search bar appears. You can change these keys if you want to, if you're coming from some other software, but I recommend going with these keys, because these keys, if you're going to in the future you're asked to teach someone else, and then you actually should go ahead and just will be confused by someone else's normal regular Blender key map, because you are actually using a different key map. So some key map changes here and there are okay, but try not to change all the others. So the first thing, as you can see on our screen, is this cube. This is what we call an object, and as you can see I'm rotating around it. So Blender is working in 3D space, basically how we are working in real life. It is also working in 3D space, but we're seeing it in a flat 2D screen. So this is our object. Any object, there can be a square, sphere, a lot of other things. This is our light. This is used to render add light into a scene, obviously. And this is the camera. You can have multiple cameras, lights and objects in the scene, obviously. So the next thing I guess I should talk about is the scene collection one over here. Objects, lights, cameras, they are all in this scene collection. So this is to basically organize your viewport, because it can get really messy real soon. Like even if you're a beginner, you'll probably in your second or third project, and it will be really confusing. So I recommend naming properly your objects, lights, whatever. Even you can lights, camera, or name your lights. Even you can name your camera, like camera scene 1, where your first scene is the first camera, and then the second scene is second camera. You can actually name your lights to something like, yeah, this is just my sunlight, this is just internal room light, etc. And objects, obviously the most common renaming is going to be happening over here. Also let me just right click. If I right click over here, then I can add a new collection, and let's just say I want my camera and light to be in another collection just for the hell of it, because I'm going to be modeling this cube. So if I just want to hide my camera and light, I'll just click on over here, and only the light and camera have been hidden and you can see them anymore, but the cube is still there. And then I can turn it back on and off. And you can add more options over here, but I'm not going to get into those right now. The second menu I guess we should be going is into Blender more changes. Now this is a cube, but obviously it isn't that interesting. We want something else. I want to change it. I want to turn it into a rectangular sort of shape, maybe into building. So I can't just do that right now over here. So that's why we actually go into different modes of Blender. Now to access modes, there are two menus. As you can see over here, we are currently in object mode, where over here we can only just select these objects. We can't edit this cube. You can edit light selector, you can change the settings, but you can't necessarily edit them. The same goes for camera, but with the objects you can edit them. So you can actually go to object mode from over here to and you can change this to edit mode or edit mode. Okay, and now that I'm in edit mode, I can just grab this. And what is this? This is a vertex. So if I just grab and move this, and I'm not going to share the shortcuts right now because I will be doing an in-depth video in the future about other aspects, obviously. So we can actually just edit our object. Like I'll just select all of these and just move it over here to create this rectangular form, so sort of a building sort of view. Now there are other modes as well. To go into edit mode, all you need to do is click on tab and you're in edit mode. As you can see, now I can see the vertices, edges, etc., and then click on tab again to come back to object mode. So there are other modes. And how do we go to the other modes? You can just go into control tab and this menu will pop up. In Blender you need to also keep in mind your mouse position. Like if I move it over here, then the mouse is going to edit mode. I can go to sculpt mode, object mode, weight paint mode, vertex mode. All of them have their own features. Again, control tab and this menu will pop up, and then you can go into other modes as well. So what is the next mode? It is the sculpting mode. I'm not going to go into in depth to it, but as you can see, there are multiple brushes and you can use them to sculpt. There are options over here, and the options actually change for different type of modes. Right now we are in sculpt mode. It's giving us different options for radius of or strength. Again, I'm not going to go in depth, I'm just telling you. But if I were in the edit mode, the options are different. They are actually in view, select, add, mesh, face, vertices. If you basically different options for different types of functions. So the next, and for most of them, like except for edit mode, as you can see, it has view, add, mesh, vertex, these options. But with sculpt mode, you can see radius, strength, and these same options are actually added in the other modes as same in vertex paint. I actually don't use vertex paint. I don't think I have ever used vertex paint. I barely use it. But weight painting, now weight painting mode also has the same options, but they're doing different things. Then there's texture painting. So now what does sculpting mode do? It obviously sculpts like how you make a clay sculpture, but in 3D space. So there are tools. I'm again not going to go into depth with it. Then there's vertex paint. Again, I haven't used it that much ever, so I'll just show you that there is also a mode for that as well. I haven't seen much use for it in my experience. Then there's weight painting mode. Now supposedly that I want a certain effect or something to happen only on a specific area of Blender, then I will weight paint it. Okay, and you actually need a little bit of more geometry for this. So I'll just, again, I'm not showing you all these shortcuts etc., because I will be making more parts, make more in-depth details of it. So if I just go into weight paint mode and I'll just paint like this, so that specific effect which I want to happen, again, it can be anything that Blender allows us to do. That will only happen in this area, or I can even invert it, and then it will only leave this area, like it won't happen in this area, and then it can happen on all of the other area, or it will happen only in this area. You can even make it select like that. Then there's also texture painting. Basically, you want to color your model or whatever building you want, you can actually paint it inside Blender. There's a whole process to it. It's not as simple as just I start painting like this. You see, I'm clicking it with my mouse, but it's not happening. There's a process. So I told you I won't be doing it in depth. So now the next thing you can do is, if you're going with specific what are you going to doing. For example, if you're going to doing modeling, you can come over here and click on modeling. So it will automatically take you to edit mode and make the best layout according to developers, at least, to for modeling, and will actually take you to the edit mode automatically. Again, I have seen a lot of people that keeps saying the layout mode and then start editing the place. You can also create your custom layouts, like over here. I can actually have this, or maybe I can even go ahead and add in a layout like this, and this way you can actually create your custom layouts as well. But I recommend in the start just go with the existing ones. They actually work fine. I don't know why people just have to make their own layouts. Then there's sculpt layout. Again, it will automatically take you to sculpt mode. UV editing. This is basically like how basically our model is sort of a, let's just say, a candy. that's actually the best analogy I found. And the candy actually has a wrapper. That wrapper is the textures and UVs. So it has to be opened up like a flat 2D surface, like a wrapper, and it will be over here, and you can actually edit it and maintain it. Again, I'm not going to go into depth. And texture bending, again, there's a whole process to it, but it is more or less you create textures. Then there's shading mode. You can actually use node based materials, like if you don't want to take all on the you don't want to create the material from scratch or anything like that, then you can go into shading mode and use nodes. Use these nodes to create your material. I'm again like I can just change the color, red, green, blue, and any color if you want. I'll just leave it to default right now. Then there's animation view. Again, animation, typically, as you can see, there are 3 screens. This is the timeline, where you can actually check your animation, how fast it's going, where the keyframes are, etc. And they're typically giving you 2 views, because because in 3D animation specifically, you need to make sure that your animation looks good from all angles, especially for games, because you don't know how it will work. Or maybe even if you want to reuse that animation, and if you make it good from all angles, then you can reuse it multiple times. Then there's the rendering tab. This is where it shows you your final result in image form. Then there's compositing. If you actually want to change a little bit of your final result, like let's just say adding a filter to it, that's the simplest explanation I can give you. You can basically add a filter to make it look better, like maybe look at dark, make it look darker, maybe lighter. Then there's geometry nodes. I recommend not touching this in the start, mostly because beginners shouldn't be doing this. I don't think even a lot of intermediate people should be doing this, because they're actually hard. So in the start, for beginners, I'll actually advise you to avoid this. And there's scripting. Again, I have never touched it, even though I'm a computer science graduate. I just never touched this scripting part, because it's just beyond me. I just don't like coding. So the next thing we can actually go is the timeline. Now with the timeline, I'll also be showing over here our render engine. I'll actually get back to the timeline later on. Our render engine is basically how our final image is going to interact with lights and all of the other aspects and bounces, etc. If you're a beginner, I suggest go with Eevee and then move on to Cycles if you like realism. Basically, as a beginner, you will mostly Eevee renders fast. It doesn't take that much of processing power. Cycles on the other hand gives better results, but takes a lot of rendered power. So as a beginner, you should be going with Eevee. When you're intermediate, you can go with Cycles, and if you're a real pro, you will be. And typically, a lot of people basically say Eevee is good for stylized or cartoon stuff, and Cycles is used for realistic stuff. I haven't used Workbench myself, so I don't know. I think it's more of a architecture sort of thing. So, but the real experts, when you're actually at that level, you can even use Eevee for realistic and Cycles for cartoony stuff. And there are samples, and you basically a lot of options over here that you can actually explore. How your render will look like depending on what option you turn on and turn off. I'm not going to go in depth. I will make a separate video about a lot of these things. Then there's our next tab. This is where our timeline comes in. Basically, our current frame rate is 24 FPS. That means 24 frames, 24 images up to this point create only 1 second of video for us. So if this timeline is 240 frames, that means that it's making the animation is going to be 10 seconds long. So that's what I was gonna say. So you can obviously change this over from over here, and this is the output tab. You can actually mess with the settings up and see where you actually want to save your file, because by default it will save the image to your temp folder, but we don't want that. You will actually change this and navigate to wherever you want to save it. This tab is usually for when you get to compositing. So for now, I guess you all there. That's all you need to know for now. Over here, if you want to change the units in Blender, go to the screen and then click on N. This is how you'll actually find out. Basically, now I have my cube selected and it's giving me its dimensions. If I select my light, as you can see, it stops showing the dimensions. So the units are 2 meters in x dimension. As you can see over here, this is our x-axis, so it's 2 meters thick. Okay, and then on the y dimension is also 2 meters, and again this is the y-axis, as you can see, so it's also 2 meters thick over here. But on the z-axis, the height of it is 3.97 meters. So if you want to change the units to metric or to imperial or whatever you want to, or whatever you're comfortable with, you can go with this. And the gravity, this is for simulations, to be honest, for water simulations or maybe particle simulations, etc. You can by default change this. By this you can actually affect the entire scene, or you also have the specific option to go into specific places to only affect a specific niche where gravity will be higher or lower. This is our world setting. Let me just go into Z rendered view. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, if you want to view your rendered, and in Eevee it's actually easy with cycles, it actually takes up a lot of processing power. So as you can see, this is currently our render. And if I change the world color, and you can obviously add images in the background too, I can change it to blue, green, and or even add in an image if I think that actually looks better, but I'll just leave it to this same grayish thing for now. And there are obviously other options as well. Then there's this part where you can actually control, I think, use the scene collections, but I haven't used this that much, so again it's up to you. Then there's your object data properties. Basically our cube by default ratio, even though this dimensions is actually shows us in meter, but in Blender own scale it's all still 1:1:1. But if I were to scale this right now, as you can see that it's affecting this scale, and also this, but this scale as well. By default you would want to, whenever you're done with editing and doing whatever you want, you would want this scale to be 1:1:1 in all three before exporting, or to avoid errors. So I'll just control Z this for now. There is a way to actually obviously have it scale and still have it 1:1:1, but we'll discuss that later. Then there's the modifiers tab, and this is by far the most used tab we're probably going to be doing, and there's so many different types of modifier. Again, if I actually start going into all of this video will be too long, so I'll just go give you a basic help. If you actually, let's say, want multiple columns or pillars for some reason, you can click on the arrow modifier and then just start increasing the number, and you can see I can easily just create a lot of these. Maybe I want different lights, etc. So this is just one of many modifiers, and again I'll probably make a video with about all of the modifiers separately, maybe not, or maybe I'll just make something else, I don't know for now. Then there's the particle settings. I actually really thought they would have gotten rid of this, because there were talks during Blender 3 that they will actually remove this in the future because of geometry nodes. But for some reason, even in Blender 4.5, like this was in talks during Blender 3, but even during Blender 4.5, they still haven't removed it. So there are basically two types of particle systems. If one is emitter, like let's just say you want rain or maybe falling leaves, you can use the emitter setting. Or for the hair one, you can use obviously some people use it for hair, but for hairs. Now this doesn't mean that it's only for hair. You can use it for trees, bushes, etc. And also you can mess around with tons of settings. I'll just give you a little example. Remember that a while ago I painted weight and made it over here. What if I go over here and then add in the density, that same group? It actually created a group, and now the hair is only coming from the part that was painted. And if I click on this button, I can invert it. Now the hair is coming from all parts except for that. Here it can be a little bit glitchy, but it works pretty fine in my opinion. And I actually use this more than geometry nodes, so we'll probably look in depth later on. Then there's a physics tab. Basically, if you want real world physics in your animations, and you don't want to animate, and mostly you won't want to animate a lot of stuff frame by frame, you can use this tab. I guess I can give you example, but I don't know, maybe I'll do it. I'll add in a plane over here, and I want this cylinder to fall on over this plane. Okay, now obviously I can create the animation manually, but that would take a lot of time and would be pointless, so I'll just go ahead. You don't need to copy this. Okay, I'll just show you. Now if I play this animation, as you can see, the box is automatically reacting to it. Now obviously if we change a couple of settings, it will react differently. So this is just an example to actually show you what exactly all this shindig is. So the next tab, that is going to be the constraint tab. Now the constraint tab, I'm going to say, is a lot of time is niche, a lot of time it's just necessary depending on what you're doing. But let's just say, I'll just give you an example. I have let's just say this cone, and I want the cylinder to have the exact same place as this cone, like in the 3D space. Obviously right now I can easily just go ahead and move it to the same place as well, but let's just say it's sort of a mess of objects and I want to use it. So I just go into this constraints and I'll just say copy location, and you can select which axis you want, click over here, select this, and as soon as you apply it, it will be permanent. Or if you don't apply it and just remove it, then the square will come back to its original place. There are other constraints as well, but this is good one for now. Now this is the tab where remember that I created this weight group, vertex group, weight paint vertex group. It got created on a vertex over here. Now if I click on minus, it's gone. Okay, it's stored over here, and shape keys and UV maps. These three are the most common ones you'll probably be using. Maybe others too, like but mostly I use these three. This is our material tab. Currently our building cube over here has only one material, whereas our plane doesn't have it, or nor does our cone. One object can have multiple materials. You can add images, you can mess around with different settings. If we go into the material preview tab, and I'll just change this to Collier, as you can see it's giving us a slight preview, not the render preview, but the slight preview and how the thing can look. Over here's the texture tab. Again, if you can combine this with the other options from modifiers to get. The next menu we'll be looking at is this one. It is part of the main tab bar. Basically these settings actually work with other functions, features of Blender more accurately. For example, let's just say I actually want to move this cube completely and accurately about this point. As you can see, there's this grid square, there are smaller squares, and then they actually make up a bigger square. So I actually want Blender to accurately and without a hinge move it over here. So I'll just turn on this one. It's called snap. There are different options for it, but I'll just keep it for increment for now, and I'll just move it. And as you can see, it's actually moving per square, and I can easily just move it about over here. So there are obviously other options as well, but we will discuss those later on. And I guess I should also tell you this one because it is actually useful as compared to the other ones. This one is actually pretty useful. Let's just say you don't want to learn sculpting and you want to by the way, I am moving around by clicking on the middle mouse to actually move around, or I can actually scroll to zoom out and scroll in to zoom in as well. So about this one, so I'll just again click on tab or control tab to actually go into edit mode, and I'll just, again, you don't need to follow this, I'm just giving you an example. Let's just say you don't want to do sculpting and you actually do minimal work for organic modeling. So with sculpting, it's mostly used for organic stuff, but some people even use it for a hard surface stuff. But let's just say your work requires minimal use of the minimally required organic stuff. Let's just say you minimally required organic modeling or stuff like that. So you can actually fake that by turning on the settings. You can also use the O key to turn it on. If I click on O, it will turn on, and O to turn it off, or I can just click it over here. Again, it has its settings. So let's just say I wanted a spherical. So once I do that, and then I want to move this, I'll hit G. I guess we can actually discuss this much. And as you can see that it's actually moving it around somewhat organically. Basically, the vertices that this one I have selected, it has the most influence, and as the circle progresses, the effect starts to dumb down depending upon what settings you have selected. Like if I go with this one, you'll see that the movement is slightly different. You can obviously scroll in the mouse wheel to make the area larger, or scroll it down to make the area smaller. I think this accurately represents how the proportional editing tool works best, and you can use it for faking organic stuff. You don't have to sculpt. This is why I just haven't done much sculpting myself. So the next menu, these are basically the quality of life options. As you can see, the screen line shows our y-axis, and this red line, as you can see in our grid, is the x-axis. But what if you want the z-axis as well? So you can obviously just go and turn on z-axis if you like, but mostly we will just keep it off off, you can obviously turn on other stuff as well. Like as you can see, we don't normally see the wireframe of the model. Like if I go into tab and edit mode, now I can see the wireframe, but what if I wanted to see it in object mode as well? So I just turn on this setting and now I can see the wireframe. There are obviously other stuff as well, like if I just want to turn off navigation, I think this is the reason, so I turn it off, or if I want it I can turn it back on. So these are all basically quality of life stuff. You can also turn on X-ray mode. Like as you can see, now I can see the other part of it, but I barely use X-ray mode because again we always have the wireframe mode. Now there is also the other mode. Basically these are all modes where you actually work out, but how you work with Blender or what you want to do. But if you click on Z, then this menu pops up. This is basically a sub mode of all the other modes. If you want to view the wireframe, you can go over here and see it like this, or you can actually just see in the rendered view how it will look in the actual render. It basically shows you a close enough approximation of how the final render will look, and the final render will look whatever the hell is your camera viewing. You can click on the 0 key on your number pad to see the camera view. So whatever I will render, it will show this me from this camera views, and you can obviously do stuff where you have multiple cameras, and it can, let's just say the first few seconds is from one camera, the next few seconds are from the another camera angle. So you can also do that in Blender as well, since that's the advantage of all the 3D purpose. So this is also again a quality of life sort of stuff. Like let's just say I don't like this gray theme, so I can just go ahead and change the theme to something else. Like if I go over here, I think yes, okay, over here. So I don't actually like let's just say this white color. I'll just go into object mode, and if I just change it to something else like matte cap, or maybe something like this flat matte render, or I have multiple options, I can actually go with this. It depends on what you like best. There are obviously other options as well, so I'll just do, let's just say I go with the most basic one, and let's just say I want, for the ease, I just want different colors for different objects. So I can just click on over here, and now it's just giving all these different colors, slightly different color. Maybe there used to be more variations. Let me just duplicate this, and now you can see they all have a slightly different color, and whenever I duplicate them, they keep adding. By the way, you can shift D to duplicate this or anything else you want. So different results. So this was a basic overview from my point into Blender, and I hope you guys learned something. I hope you'll come back to actually check this video out in the future as well. I'll be actually posting 5 videos per week during this series. Basically on Saturday I post my regular video of a tutorial. That tutorial video is intended for beginners typically, and if regarding this series, it's going to probably have 4 parts per week. I won't be posting during Monday or Tuesday, but I will have upload videos hopefully during the 5 days of the week. One will be of my regular tutorial video, and the rest of the 4 will be of related to this series, where I'll just discuss needs basic stuff, and basically compiling all the tips and tricks in one place. Like let's just say how to select some stuff, or maybe how to whatever it sees, or maybe alter everything that's related to edit mode, etc., so that the beginners can have something as well, and the intermediate people can have a compiled list on everything. So yeah, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and watch another one of my videos, as that's how the YouTube algorithm works. It's a small channel and it won't cost you anything. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.